Hello, my name is Jon Hacker. I'm the CEO of NeurGear, and we've created the ZenBud, the first ultrasonic vagus nerve stimulator in the near on the market. And I'm a biomedical engineer. So let's get started.
Future Optimist.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Jon Hacker. My name is Ross Podcaster. We both have names that are related to what we're doing. How do you explain that?
I was born with it. So it's a very funny story. Both my brother and my father are computer scientists. So they're hackers in the more traditional sense. I took the name in a little bit different direction.
Work for Facebook?
Oh, no.
You're a biohacker.
Yeah, I'm more of a biohacker than a traditional hacker. We had to add some diversity to the name.
That's right. Now that we got the obligatory terrible pun out of the way, and he's like, man, I regret my decision already. Now we can move on to the meat and potatoes of it. Really interesting stuff. It seems like pseudoscience, seems crazy, which is, the hallmark of this future world we're finding ourselves in. I'm sure it's all very logical to you, but from the outside, it seems to many of us that the world is just going insane, that the speed of everything is ramping up. You referenced this Neuralink video that was just released, brains and data and AI and all of this insanity. It's hard to tell what is true, what is pseudoscience, what is fake, what is real. How do you see this point in time when it comes to the technological field that you're in?
We are in a boom. In a lot of ways, we're in a boom at this point in time of new technology, of new approaches. And frankly, in startups, we have this saying that it's the crazy ideas, the ones that seem, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Those are the ones that really make it big. Those are the ones that make the biggest impact.
Right.
And a lot of those crazy ideas, they've been worked on behind the scenes for a good number of years now. They're just coming out to light. What we're seeing now, 10 years ago, is what funders were seeing. And now that the time has been taken to develop those ideas into something real, it's all coming at once. And it seems crazy. These things have been worked on for a very long time. This has not been instantaneous. I'll give an example from my field because it's one of the ones I'm most familiar with. But vagus nerve stimulation is close to 40 years old. This is nothing new. It's just a new application. It is a better way of doing it. For what we're doing, the technology, the science has been out there for a very long time. It's just awareness.
I've been to Vegas stimulation. I didn't tell my wife about it. You're talking about that strip club off of. Are we? Oh no! I think I misinterpreted.
I love the pun. No, Vegas nerve stimulation is so you have two systems in your body. You have fight or flight and rest and digest, and essentially how it works is. Your rest and digest system is largely controlled by something called your vagus nerve. It's spelled a little bit differently from Las Vegas. It's VAGUS, and it doesn't help with gambling. It's not anything about the entertainment scene. What it really does help with, though, is it helps you be more calm and relaxed and centered. One of the things that's really most commonly known for is being like the brain-gut connection as well.
Ooh, I like
and so what companies like mine do is we stimulate that nerve, increase its activity. When that happens, users will feel calmer, especially if you have a problem with fight or flight in the wrong circumstance. You're feeling really stressed about something when you shouldn't be. That's where these type of solutions really come in.
Or like you make a bad joke.
And people have been doing
flat.
This type of stuff for a very long time.
That's right. So people have been doing this for a very long time, like you said. And it's the culmination of years. We feel like we're at this moment in time where all of these things are happening at the same time. We're seeing the culmination of so many different lines of technology and lines of thought, and they're all merging in a very strange way. I think I speak for many of us when I say we're optimistic, and that's the whole premise of the show. Some things are really exciting. Some things are terrifying, especially brain control, brain connection. I think that is really at the heart of both the most exciting and the most terrifying bit of all of the tech of the future, because we as humans look at all the laws that we have in the United States. We have the Constitution. We have our Bill of Rights, and we talk about our freedom of speech, and we know that these things are protected. But most people are very, very, very... We cling to the fact that our brain is sacred territory, right? I'm glad that Facebook doesn't know what I'm thinking, and yet we're marching ever closer towards Facebook, literally knowing it's like, hey, you just thought about killing that guy. Shut up, Facebook. Stop it. So it's a real weird hot button topic. And I've talked to people who are reading the brain's thoughts. I've talked to people in this space. But what's new about your company that I haven't yet talked about is the stimulation of it for a desired effect. I've talked to numerous people who are reading the brain to achieve something, but nobody's so far impacting it. So this brain-gut connection, this relaxation connection, how does this work, and should I be terrified of it?
So the simple answer is you shouldn't be, but people are going to be anyway, because everything new, it's new, and that has its own problems with it.
Yep.
As far as how this brain-gut connection, how this nerve that is responsible for a large portion of your rest response works is, well, it's always active to some extent. We just stimulate a little branch that you find in your ear, which is why our form factor is a pair of headphones.
Right.
And that travels along, and I'm not going to get into the super funky details here because I could start naming out parts of the brainstem, parts of the brain and systems, but no one really wants to hear that.
Sure.
Essentially what it does is it increases its activity.
Okay.
And it does it through something. You're familiar with ultrasound, right? The stuff they use for
Yes,
babies.
by the time this episode will have has aired, my son will have been born. I have a baby on the way as number 2. Yes, I'm somewhat familiar with ultrasound as a concept.
Good. Ultrasound's been around for a very long time, but it's not typically thought of as something that can actually stimulate nerves because despite actually the Fry brothers way back, right around World War II, doing some of the first ultrasound stimulation, it hasn't really been explored until more recently, let's say the last 20 years or so. But you can actually stimulate your neurons, your brain, the stuff that makes up your body with ultrasound. And that is part of the new frontier of this field. And I do want to be clear here. Stimulatory technologies existed for a very long time.
Right.
There's a lot of brain stimulation startups. There's a lot of cranial nerve and nerve stimulation startups out there that exist. The reason why we're not as aware of them is that, frankly, most devices out there are terribly inconvenient.
Yeah.
Like what's really the real epitome of this time period, the thing we should all get really excited about, is the increased ease of user experience and the ease of use of technologies that have existed for a very long time.
Right.
AI is an example. AI has been around, but most people don't have access to it.
Right.
The access was low. The ease of use was low. Implants have been around. The Utah array has predated Neuralink by quite a long time. Frankly, it could use quite a bit of improvement, and it also needs to be improved for ease of use. That's what Neuralink really is doing. It is democratizing a pre-existing technology and bringing it to the people. That's the same thing we're doing. We're bringing vagus neurostimulation, used to be an implant, then a bunch of electrical devices, which legitimately hurt to use, to something that's easy and painless. That's legitimately most of the innovation we're seeing right now is all about usability and user factors. It's not really about the base technology because that research has already been done. By the time we see it, there's already been a good 40 years of behind-the-scenes work that's happened.
Instead of a skull cap of 400 little electrodes, it's now a pair of earbuds. And in the future, those earbuds will go inside my ear. They'll be attached to AirPods Pro sort of thing, right? Any pair of earbuds you purchase, that's where it's all headed, right? And then eventually it'll be in your brain. So I've only experienced ultrasound stimulation once that I know of. I was in a car accident once, and I went to a place and I was doing rehab, and they were doing some sort of ultrasound on a muscle. And at the time when they were doing it, I felt, is this really doing anything? In that kind of case, does ultrasound stimulation actually do anything when it comes to like muscle repair, or is that really just weird?
I do need to clarify something here. So ultrasound's being used for a lot of different applications. Diagnostics, so we can look at babies before they're born.
Yeah.
You also have ultrasonic therapeutic devices which use heat as their main mechanism.
Okay.
It's not really tuned to stimulate neurons, and you actually do need to tune the ultrasound to properly do that. If it's not tuned properly, it's not going to really do much.
Yeah.
And most physical therapy devices are tuned to solely deficit heat. So they're heating up your muscles, which can theoretically help it relax, which is the main base. Though I've talked with a number of physical therapists that have used ultrasound in their practice, and you get varying response rates from people that are going in for that kind of thing. And I mean, when you get into like bone healing, et cetera, things get even a little bit more, is that really working or not? When it comes to ultrasound neuromodulation, we do know that it works because we have specific studies that have shown again and again, hey, this is the frequency, these are the intensities, this is the duty cycle you need. But you really need that very particular set of parameters. If you don't have it, it's either not going to work or it's not going to work well. Just to be frank.
No, that makes sense. But I think that does highlight an important part here, which is again, we just don't know. And it's so hard to separate. And myself researching companies, you don't know who is actually, because there are so many companies that have a poor looking website and some vague concepts. Imagine a drone that flies 200 times faster than I'm imagining it, but are you actually building it? And, there's so much of that in the tech space where it's like they might actually be really great, but just not great at marketing themselves, or they might actually not have a product at all. I've seen both, to be sure. So guide me through the use case for the ZenBud, which is a small headphone form factor. So I have a terror of the mailman. The mailman rings the bell and I go into fight or flight. I can't interact with people whatsoever. So I put this on. What is it going to do for me in 5 minutes?
So I'll definitely go through that with you for sure. I do want to actually touch on that point you mentioned before.
Sure.
Because I can shed some light on what really is happening in that space.
Yeah.
But anyways, all you have to do is, sadly, I don't have a unit here with me. I typically do, but we were in DC and then I was out to another conference last night and things have been crazy. So it's still in my car.
And you're dealing with an ice
outside
and
and freezing snow.
in Rochester. Yes, no, you get a pass. It's okay.
Yes, we do have a snowstorm in Rochester right now.
Yes.
In March.
Yes.
March 22nd. Anyways, so all you got to do is you put it on and you make sure that the earbud is in your ear and that you feel a little bit of pressure above it. That pressure is important because that's the contact point for the ultrasound.
Okay.
And then you plug it in.
Okay.
And we really made this for usability. Now, what we typically suggest is 5 minutes a day.
Okay.
Every day, consistently, because that's where you're going to see the best results. And this is with legitimately any approach to trying to feel less stressed, more relaxed, or any changes you want to make in your body. Consistency is key. I don't care where you're going. This is no different in that aspect. You will notice more immediate effects, especially if you're in a fight or flight mode. Like, for example, the milkman, right? They're ringing the doorbell and you're going to get really uppity or you're in a fight or flight mode. If you put on the unit and you're wearing it and you're using it actively, you're going to feel less uppity. Yes. That's not the point though, because if you use it consistently, then every single time the doorbell rings, you're not going to get as stressed or as upset from the doorbell ringing. At least that's the basic concept behind it. And that's what a lot of the science supports.
And so if I wear this 24 hours a day, why wouldn't I want it on constantly to be in a constant Zen-like state?
Because that is, to me, that seems like almost hell. I got to be honest with you.
Lithium and
you
the
don't
old
always want to
psych
be
boards.
in any state. Yeah. The key here is that this isn't a drug. And you don't have to use it always to get the effect either. And we really emphasize the strengthening of that system over time. Also, these things do have a 30-minute timer. They will turn off.
Okay.
And that's because we do have CE compliance, and that's required by them. You can just unplug it and plug it back in if you really want to. But per session is limited to 30 minutes. And you usually don't need more than that in order to really get the major brunt of effects that you're looking for, in order to feel more calm throughout your day and to feel more relaxed.
Makes sense, but it's just crazy. Like, I can hear everything you're saying, and I'm like, but it's also crazy. So for you personally, when you feel stressed or if you feel fight or flight kicking in, what do you feel when you put this thing on?
For me personally, and I use this usually in the morning for like around 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
Sometimes if I'm having a really rough day, I'll do again in the evening. You typically use it right before or during a fight or flight event because I usually don't have it on me. I usually have it in my bag and it just takes a while to get out and to use, which is why I use it more consistently in other times. But frankly, I feel the stress roll out. And when it comes to this type of stimulation, it's a really personal experience. But for me, it's like taking a load off. I got to be honest.
Really? That's insane. I mean, that's so cool. Who wouldn't want that? So you feel a physical, visceral reaction. Your body you're just sort of pushing it away. The kind of thing that you might achieve if you did a solid hour of meditation, but it's going straight to your physical response.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And I will note, I do want to say, I am a stronger responder. Not everyone responds as strongly. This is really personal. You have to try it to see for yourself. But we do see, for example, when we were at the Consumer Electronics Show this January, around 80% of people that came by the stand for 5 minutes felt more relaxed at the end. I will note, should use this for at least 5 minutes before making a judgment on if it's going to be work well for you or not. Because if you don't use it for less than that, you're really not going to see the full effect.
I'm curious, have you ever done a double-blind study on that? Have you done a placebo or a fake pair of headphones that's compared against it that's not actually?
We are conducting studies actively. So we don't need to sell on the market, which I'm not sure how familiar with the regulations, but they are what they are. I would personally like to see them change. But we have two active and one scheduled clinical trials, one with Barry University down in Florida, one with University of Nottingham over in the UK, which they're going to get some fMRI data, which we're really excited about. Cool. And then one that we're doing locally, which we're actually actively recruiting for. It's done on a rolling basis. So that can actually be done with anywhere on the continental United States. So if people are interested, definitely reach out because we are still recruiting for that for now.
That's
There's
awesome.
a $20 Amazon gift card in it.
And yeah, when do you imagine that people can actually buy this? When will you start rolling it out for?
So very soon.
Okay.
Originally, we were going to do a Kickstarter campaign.
Okay.
Because, a lot of companies in the space have done very well with that. But I got to be honest with you, we've done all the development. We managed to bootstrap our way to a fully functioning product, have active clinical trials, which are the things you usually raise money or do a Kickstarter to do.
Yeah, for sure.
We've already done them. So we're going to be releasing this out very soon to the full market. In fact, I think based on some of my conversations, it might even be tonight. The going seriously, yes.
Man, you never know serendipity right
because
here.
we're yes, awesome. 100%. The going rate is going to be $500 a unit. If you did sign up before now, you were still going to get the discount. For people that were worried about the Kickstarter, we're still going to make her good on our promise to you because we had a $1 for 100 off. That's still going to be applicable. So it's coming out to the market.
So you're excited. That's big news. Wow. Congratulations on that. That must be the culmination of a long time of difficult work. Yeah.
A very long time. 100%. Like this has been.
How long have you been working on it? Yeah. How many years?
So for me personally, I know I wanted a company in this realm to happen since I was around 11. So it's been a very long time coming.
Yeah, I saw that.
But
which is truly shocking, by the way. To know anything of what you want at the age of 11 or 12 isn't. Okay.
Everyone figures out what they want to do in life at some point. I just found out a bit earlier than most. That's all. The team itself, we've been together for around 2 years now, and the company has existed for 3. And we've been really developing, iterating, making this into what it is today. So this has been a lot of hours, a lot of time, a lot of heartbeats, as one of my dear mentors will say. And we've made something that we find is truly incredible. We were not expecting it to work as well as it does when we were first building this. We were expecting something a lot more subtle, to be frank.
So what do you think the implications are of this? Obviously, you can say it might replace other things, such as drugs. How many people are on anti-anxiety medication in the United States and around the world? Tons and tons. Do you think there are implications towards reducing our dependency on pharmaceuticals for some of these things? Do you think there are implications in terms of controlling our state of mind more actively in a more direct way? Like, where do you see this heading after the first use case of helping get more calm in 5 minutes a day?
So I'm going to say this right now because it's what we're aiming for. It's why we're doing that clinical research. We want this to be out there for people to enhance their wellness. Whatever they're doing right now, we want them to add it to it. It's another line. It's not the front line. It's very similar to, for example, TMS is for treatment-resistant depression. It's not your first line of treatment, though they're changing that, which is good because it's a much lower risk than a lot of pharmaceuticals people are put on. And people can use what we're doing here today with almost anything in their life. And that's really where a lot of the appeal of these types of wearables comes from. It can be integrated easily. The easier of use it is, even if it is a minor benefit, that stacks up, especially when you add it with other things. And particularly, we, in the long term, really want to address PTSD and anxiety-type disorders.
Sure.
We're not making any claims on that right now because we can't. We're doing the work to make those claims at a certain point in time. But for this group of individuals, the options are, frankly, very poor. And most of our treatments for PTSD and for anxiety are missing the bucket, so to speak, in my opinion. That is an opinion I have.
Of course.
And
we'll put the giant asterisk on the screen.
But from the people I've talked to, yeah, of course. But from the people that we've talked to And from what we've seen, there needs to be something new here in this space. And that's where neurotechnology really is. Neurotechnology has come to, I would almost say, in midterm, disrupt the pharmaceutical industry. Just like how the digital camera disrupted Kodak, which is very close to our hearts because I'm in Rochester. So this is where a lot of that went down.
Sure.
And it's crazy too, because Kodak built their own destruction. Kodak built the digital camera. They're the ones that invented it. They didn't pursue it because it didn't make as much money as film. It could become something very similar for medicine in the longer term. Because pharma is extremely profitable.
Right.
Every pill, the margins on that is insane. But over time, better solutions are coming out. Ones that have less side effects, especially, which is where I see a very potent use case for all stimulation type wearables and stimulators in general, and lower risks too. So as opposed to the front line being prescribing someone a drug, it could be, hey, try this device. If that doesn't work, yeah, we'll put you on the drug. Or maybe we do both. But try the device first because there's no harm in it. Worst case, you just take it off. Send it back to me.
Do you think it could
That's where I see this going.
A lot of people have fear of very specific things. Fear of public speaking, for example, often cited as being a fear worse than death. If I have to give a TED Talk, presumably on how to bullshit your way through life, but if I'm giving my TED Talk and I'm in front of an audience and I'm terrified, can I wear this maybe or a version of this while I'm presenting and be more calm and have better associations with speaking in front of people, just as one random example?
Yes, we would say yes. Though I would note you should test out your personal reaction to it first. Because some people are so stressed all the time that they'll actually fall asleep after using this.
No way.
So if you're one of those people, you probably shouldn't be wearing this on the stage. That being said, if you're someone because a lot of people will get into a flow state, like they'll get really focused, really in the zone when using our product, and directly thereafter too. Like that lasts. That has a durable effect we've seen close to 24 to 36 hours. Yeah, we would highly suggest using it ahead of time. And you may be more eloquent. Though, again, it is, in the end, no matter what, it's still you. You still have to do the work.
Right.
No wearable, no solution is going to do that for
Put
you.
that on the website. Here's still you, buddy. Dang it. I'm working on that day. Soon with Neuralink, it won't still be me anymore. I'm going to merge with Gemini or Bard or whatever the next one is, and then it won't be me anymore. But that's incredible. So you're saying that like for a certain percentage of the population, it could replace melatonin, for example. I could put this on before I go to sleep in bed, and I might actually fall asleep without a sleep aid, which is another huge addiction that a lot of people have.
Yeah, vagus nerves. We've seen. I have to put asterisks here because we're still conducting the research to clinically validate these outcomes. But we have seen that a lot of our users will fall asleep when using it. We have to wake them up and say, hey, your time's up. It turned off. It's been 30 minutes. And yeah, we do see that.
It's just wild. The future truly is here. I'm very excited. I can't wait to try this for myself at some point. So if that's ever in the cards, I would love to check it out. It's the more you talk about it, the more you realize the implications and the potential use cases are truly massive. Obviously, we're just scratching the surface of something here, but it's just so bizarre and so beyond belief that it's hard to imagine. But how cool would it be if for any of us it did an even tiny fraction of the stuff that you've described? Awesome, man. So we mentioned a bit about this famous, the Neuralink video that is now well known at this point. Yes. But with all of the brain technology out there, and we've talked about the multiple different ways from reading to controlling things, controlling computer interfaces to regulating your mood to understanding your focus. All of this stuff is a potential benefit of some kind of connection with the brain. What are you personally most excited about, and what are you personally most afraid of in this space with all of the different technology that's out there at the moment?
I'm a techno-optimist. I will say that freely.
Okay.
It's pretty clear based on what I'm working on, to be honest, and what we've been doing. Mm-hmm. That being said, my biggest concern is that we have a gene editing situation. Because like with gene editing, you had a super large increase in research and funding, and then someone died from leukemia because the proper due diligence wasn't done, and everything died for a good 20 years. It really delayed the state. Like we could have had cures to cancer by now, frankly, if cutting funding wasn't cut to a lot of that. But it was because everyone got scared because certain implications weren't thought through. And that's something you always have to keep in mind when it comes to these types of technology, especially because when you actually truly are at the beginning of technology, when you really don't have those 40 years behind it, it's dangerous. And that's okay. You just have to take the proper precautions. Like, for example, one of my concerns love the Neurotech team, love what they're doing. One of my biggest concerns with them, which I'm sure they're going to be addressing, or if they haven't already, is the size of the sensors and the tendrils that they use, because it's very small. And does that potentially create a concern when someone has a concussion or head force trauma? Because depending on the density of the sensors versus the brain tissue, it could be a blender. That could be an issue, or it could be a non-issue. They could already be addressing it. But the key, it's always about the amount of thought put into how all these different ways it could go wrong, and then addressing each of them that really makes the technology good. We have that practice internally. We're like, okay, these are all the things that could go wrong. Let's try to prove that our technology doesn't work. Let's try to prove that it's going to be unsafe. And if we fail to, then we know we've done a good job. And you have to really be serious about that. That's a really important part of research and development, which is a lot of times forgotten, because as optimists, it can be really easy for us to just keep push forward. But every once in a while, we have to do the check. Like, is this safe? Is this working? Is this effective? And the best way to do that is to try to prove that it isn't. And when you fail, you're pretty sure that's working.
Have you seen that criticism of Neuralink specifically about all the monkeys and horrible torture, which they've denied, by the way? These are just allegations, but of the monkeys clawing at the brain and just like begging for death and being killed. And then, of course, not to name names, they're like, hey, they consented. All the monkeys do. They were terminal anyways. Do you think the ends justify the means in scenarios like that? Do you think the potential gain is worth these types of things?
I'm going to be very frank here. Animal research has gone on for a very long time. It's not just Neuralink.
Yes.
And they've done a lot of very much worse things, especially to mice. Like, we as a society have to apologize to mice in general, because the amount of heinous experiments that we've done on them, quite a large amount. And so this is nothing new to the biomedical space.
That's true.
The answer is, even if they were doing these things, which if they're denying it, I'm suspect of, it's nothing new to animal research. Yes, there's a lot of cruelty in that, but we as a society have already deemed that that's an acceptable cost. That's why our IRB structure is set up the way it is. It's why we do take into account those risks before approving these trials. Don't get me wrong, there's a process here before you can ever put something in an animal or ever test on an animal, legally speaking. If you're doing something illegally, obviously you can skip the process, but don't. Point is that you go through an IRB, you tell them, here are the risks. The risk is the monkey might feel pain here and start scratching it. Okay. The IRB then goes and says, and the different IRBs are to different levels. You do have to remember that. The IRB says, are these risks worth the benefits? And they decide. And they're doing that on behalf of society based off the rules that our government creates, whom the officials we elect. Mm-hmm. So in a way, we've already deemed it acceptable, to be frank, based off the current systems we have.
Yeah, right. No, that makes sense. So you're saying that there's a regulatory board and they have said X amount of monkey, which, that's where we as a species get into real murky waters, gray areas real fast with stuff like that. Because we all appreciate the benefits of these types of things while not necessarily condoning the means. There are so many examples like that. But to your point, yes, mice, maybe the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, maybe Douglas Adams had it right. Maybe mice actually are the most super intelligent beings on this planet, and maybe they'll never forgive us. We're like, do you have cancer yet? No. How about now? No. How about now? Come on, get cancer. They're like, please, enough. Millions, billions.
Yeah.
But no, man, thanks for taking the time. It's super cool. I'm very excited for this. Where can people support your work? What is the best action they can take? Are you looking for people to continue? Like you said, you've already got a product for funding or just pre-ordering the thing. What would you like people to do to find out more about this?
Please pre-order at ZenBud.health. That's ZenBud.health. That's going to be the best way. Again, I mentioned tonight we're going to be going through a retailer named Caputron. They mentioned to me that their page should be up tonight, and if not, very soon. But our personal page on our page will be up soon too, and we would love support through that as well.
Okay. Fantastic. That's what you heard, the man. Go check it out. It seems like it has infinite promise. To wrap things up here, what is a piece of advice, I know you've been at it for a long time, for people who are trying to break into the space or they want to do something with the brain and build a company around it? Do you have any general piece of wisdom at this point in your journey?
I do. I'm going to give two. The first is whatever field you want to go into. First off, you got to be really determined to do this, but go to the literature. Start with the literature. You get a very good understanding very quickly of what we actually know, because a lot of times we don't know a lot. We know some very basic few pieces of information. You're going to see people contradicting each other, sometimes even within the same darn article, sometimes in separate ones. And in order to have a good understanding of what even's happening, you have to start with the literature. And then reach out to those authors. Please do not sit silent. Reach out to them, talk to them, talk through their thought process. That is invaluable. And the second is, whenever for any company that you want to start, you just have to do it. Get started now. Start building something. Build a team. Find somebody that they don't even have to be a subject matter expert. Just somebody that's willing to put in time with you is more valuable than anything else. Because once it's 2 people, then you'll keep growing. You'll have twice the amount of thought being put into it. And don't give up once you start. Because again, consistency is key in everything.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Those are such great pieces of advice. Mr. Hacker, thank you. Continue biohacking away in your own way. It's super cool. You've definitely opened my mind. And again, it's just something I cannot wait to try. And great insights here. What more could you say? It's super exciting. And I wish you all the best and all the luck in the world with your launch. I hope it goes swimmingly and that this is the tip of the iceberg for something much more exciting that's coming your way in the next few years.
We certainly hope so. Or rather, we're going to make it so. I suppose
That's right, exactly. Make it so. Star Trek reference. It's been an absolute pleasure. And with that, the official podcast is over.